Hi, Libra Sun and Rising. Welcome to your July 2025 Astro Update. It's Raina here, and July is actually quite busy, surprisingly enough. We have several planets going retrograde, including Mercury. It just seems like we're getting over that other Mercury retrograde. And we also have an especially important transit of Uranus going into Gemini. And Gemini is a fellow air sign to you, Libra. So this forms a trine. And this will be hopefully very cooperative with any area of your life where you are trying to achieve liberation. Because you could call Uranus, and it is called like a liberator, and kind of freeing you from the status quo. And the reason that this is significant is because the status quo represents, you could even say, like the matrix way of living life that we've been conditioned to live, and that it's kind of, we're programmed to do things and people go along with the program, and it's almost like totally unconscious, thinking that that's the only way. And Uranus is a very erratic influence, but sometimes that can produce a lot of growth because we can surprise ourselves of what we're capable of. So let's start with the first transit. Well, first of all, I just want to say that the Sun is in Cancer for the first few weeks, as you probably know. And Cancer for Libra is your 10th house of career. Now, you've already had like an extended stay of Mars in Cancer, including Mars retrograde. In June, Jupiter I have to say, to be perfectly honest, because it's happening tomorrow as I record this, June 9th, that Jupiter goes into Cancer. So you have Jupiter in your 10th house. You've had Mars, which might have been somewhat inharmonious, but maybe that led to, it was very growth oriented as a result. But Jupiter is exalted in Cancer. So that can mean that you experience a lot of, maybe this is like where you leapfrog. What's the word? Like you have a lot of advancement, but more than normal, because of Jupiter's expansive powers, if you will. So now we have the Sun there for the first few weeks. And on the 4th of July, holiday, the birthday of America, Venus goes into Gemini. Again, there's that air sign. So this precedes Uranus here. And this for you is the 9th house. The 9th house is Sagittarius's domain in astrology. And it's all about expansion. It's the house that Jupiter rules. So if you kind of like connect the dots in that way, I just said that Jupiter is transiting through your 10th house, and now you have Venus in Jupiter's domain. There could be some connection there, maybe even in an offhanded way. But in any case, Venus is your ruler, and so where Venus travels to is important to you, especially important. And in the 9th house, you can take pleasure in anything that has to do with a foreign nature, foreign countries, just anything going on. And this could even be love with a foreigner. Maybe when Jupiter was in Gemini, you met somebody when you were traveling, because you might have been traveling more than normal. And I'm talking about especially long distance. And that could have been meeting your soulmate, who knows? But Venus here is extending that romantic influence with foreigners. It can be people of a different nationality. They might be born here, but or ethnicity than you are, or people of a different race. It's just people who are different than you. The ninth house is like broad-minded. So that's happening. It can be like I could see a Libra person traveling to, let's say, France just to visit the museums there, or Europe in general, and doing so for the art because you tend to be very much into that kind of thing. On the same day, Neptune goes retrograde at 3 degrees of Aries. Okay, all right, Libra, this is really important. Listen up here, because Aries is your opposite sign, and this is your opposite house. This is the relationship sector. Now, I do have to say that this is a general reading, and this is why personal charts trump, this kind of like reading for all people born under the sun and rising of a sign, because that 7th house cusp is going to differ from person to person. So 3 degrees is an early degree, and this might actually be falling in your 6th house. But I'm going to talk about the 7th because this is your opposite sign. And if, when Neptune transits through your 7th house, and keep in mind that Neptune is a generational planet. So it's going to take its sweet time to go through your 7th, the house that you rule in astrology, I should say. And this could, I believe I heard another astrologer mention 2032, when Neptune will finish its transit through this sector. Because I tend to be one of those people that doesn't get too far ahead, beyond a year, when I'm doing personal readings for people and I'm looking at the next 12 months. I don't like to really explore years ahead, because that's more for a mundane astrologer who likes to look at how it's going to affect the collective. And I like to be here now. But in any case, I was listening to somebody else and they said that, and that sounds about right, because it's, 15, 16 years from now. So the point is that whenever it enters, this is going to be valid for you at that point. So let me just say something very briefly. I did a separate video on Neptune in your 7th for your particular sign, Libra, and you can check my channel for that, because it goes into depth, and also with Saturn going into this area. But basically, if you happen to be single right now, be very, very careful about who you decide to commit to, because Neptune can be deceptive, and you may meet somebody who may seem like a dream. Neptune can make you overly idealistic. So that can also impact or impair your judgment. So what you want to do is you want to be very aware of people that you meet. Not to say be paranoid, but to vet people, not to just like take people's word about what they say their background is, because you might meet somebody and they are married, or they have a child, and they're saying that they've never had children, just things like that, because they're trying to get you to get with them. And then you find out after you've fallen for them that they lied. And at that point, some people, unfortunately, they refuse to leave that situation because they've become emotionally attached. So that can produce quite a dilemma. So you want to be, be vigilant on the front end, so you save yourself that anguish on the back end. But I mean, this could be about meeting your soulmate. So I don't want to make it seem just like it's 100% negative. When Neptune goes retrograde on the same day that Venus goes into Gemini on the 4th, this could be a reality check. So some of you who are coupled and uh, but it doesn't have to be that this happened since Neptune went into Aries, which was at the end of March. This could have been any type of relationship that maybe you're a little bit deluded about. I hear that the slang now is delulu. Delulu about. Now you are being made aware of. And really, if something like this is relevant to you and it does happen, you should welcome it, because you do not want to be in a relationship with somebody that is deceptive and that is not being straight with you. So this could also be about any kind of relationship, even if it's not about deception, where you're like, should I do this? And that's also a good thing, because we should put thought into our actions, especially about something as serious as committing to someone or staying committed to them. On the 7th, Uranus goes into Gemini in that 9th house of expansion. Definitely, I definitely feel, especially since Jupiter has already been here before, in the past year, and some of you may still have it, even when it goes into Cancer, you may actually have part of Cancer in that 9th house, so you may continue to have Jupiter there as Uranus enters. And this could be about traveling for work and or working remotely, because Uranus is technology and the 9th house is long distance travel. So, and Jupiter is freedom. So it's all about expansion. So you could be expanding territory, and that can be music to your ears. Uranus in the 9th house, since this is the God house, could be exploring very unusual belief systems. The galactic or starseed information is a particular one that I hear linked to Uranus, probably because Uranus is kind of sci-fi, and so is that type of information. So it could be something along those lines. And you may right now be saying, I don't even care about that kind of stuff. But you may develop some interest in it at some point. Remember that Uranus is going to be here for years. So it doesn't have to be right off the bat. On the 10th, full moon at 18 degrees of Capricorn. This is a fellow cardinal sign, and this is falling in your 4th house of home and family. The 4th house can be your mother. Some people say the father, so we can say either one of the parents. You could learn some news about them. This could be about your childhood. It could be that you are putting 2 and 2 together about certain things that happened when you were younger, and that is giving you a better understanding of your parents. And that could be for good or not so much. Like if you begin to see them in a different light and you see that they're destructive, I mean, that could be that. Libra people tend to see the best in others, which is a beautiful quality, but sometimes it is not helpful to yourself or even the other person, because it could be kind of, again, delulu and not, you could be like, and this could be anybody, like a partner too, that you kind of just want to see that side of them, because then you don't have to upset the apple cart and break up from somebody, or if it's a parent and you have to distance yourself because they're very destructive and you really never admitted that to yourself or could see it fully. On the positive side, it could be having more compassion for them. If before you didn't understand and you find out something about them that you didn't know, full moons can bring out secrets or otherwise hidden information. But it's a chance for closure for childhood matters. On the 13th, we have Saturn going retrograde at 1 degree of Aries in that 7th house. So that's the other thing, you know, Saturn in the 7th can really test relationships. And for people who are single, this can be a time when you feel like it's a real drought. Not so much with dating per se. You might have the opportunity to date, but remember you have Pluto in the 5th house. So this is quite a doozy for Libra individuals, this time frame, because you got to like look at that scenario of like who's coming into your life. Hopefully not anybody controlling or obsessive. But you might feel this sense of there being kind of like a dry spell, but it's quality, not quantity. And that is really a good thing when you think about relationships. But now Saturn is retrograding, and you may, like, if you've made a commitment to someone, this kind of goes along with the Neptune retrograde. You might be like, I'm not sure. Maybe you're loosening that commitment. Saturn can be very traditional. Marriage, which is connected to the 7th house, is a traditional activity, and you may question that. There's nothing wrong with questioning things and challenging beliefs, because sometimes they're coming from other people and they're being projected onto us. And we just kind of pick up the ball and start running with it, even if it's really not valid for us. So on the 18th, there is a Mercury retrograde at 15 degrees of Leo. That's in your 11th house of hopes and wishes. Again, you may be like rethinking some of your long-range goals. You may have a misunderstanding with a friend or some kind of group that you belong to. Something may get lost in translation. On the 22nd, Sun goes into Leo, and we have an early degree, just like in June, we have an early degree new moon. This month, it's at 2 degrees of Leo on the 24th of the month. So Leo, that 11th house, very social house. This is the house of Aquarius. So you could be meeting new people, and that's kind of right up your alley, Libra. You're a social butterfly. You might be joining new groups. I wouldn't be surprised if some of them are like connected to foreigners. I was going to say when I was talking about the 9th house that it's kind of similar to the 11th in that it is a house that's broad-minded and people from different walks of life. And so then on the 30th, Venus goes into Cancer. So into that 10th house, that's really good for career matters. This could be a raise, because Venus can be money. This can be harmony, harmonious happenings with career. The 10th house is authority figures, and Venus here could be that you are being seen in a positive light. You're coming across very positively by the public in general, but with authority figures, they may be trying to make things easier for you. They're like doing you favors or whatnot. So that's really great, because these are people who wield power. Yeah, so that's what I have for you, Libra. I hope that this resonated. If you would like a private reading, I'm promoting my double readings. The one in particular is my deep dive reading, because that's, if you've never had your chart read, it is an hour of natal chart analysis and an hour of transits for the upcoming 12 months. Transits are like the things I'm talking about here. You could say predictions. I don't really like that because I don't like to be this, I don't call myself a psychic. I really do rely on the chart, but I like to, and I don't want to say that, oh, this is the only way things can happen, because that's not true. There could be other possibilities, but it's just kind of like looking at the energy around you. But I do give dates, of course, and things like that. But it's your specific chart based on the exact day that you're born, your natal chart. If you're listening to this reading and your sun is in Libra, boy, oh boy, and you don't know what your rising sign is, that opens up a whole new world for you, because predictions are typically based on your natal chart, which is, anchored by your rising sign. And that is, a different thing than your sun sign. Some people might have the same sun and rising sign, but maybe not at the same degree. But typically it'll be a different sign. And so it will be totally different energies. So that's my deep dive reading. And then if you like the tarot, I also have a full-length tarot reading that can be included in that, called the whole enchilada. And again, that's like a discounted price because it's a package deal. You're buying these readings together. I sell them separately. And I have like love readings, career readings. You can find out more information at the link below. Thanks for listening. Bye.